feel like in my past few videos I've come across as rather uppity and elitist, when in reality I'm really not like that. That's why in this video I feel like I need to let my sparkling personality shine forth a bit. I felt so self-conscious in front of the camera before, and that's because I wasn't able to show my hands properly. I'm a person who talks with my hands a lot, and moving my hands gives me way more confidence than not having my hands flailing around. So now I feel much more at ease, and I guess this video is definitely going to go a lot better than my previous ones. If you haven't watched them yet, do check them out. I'll link them up here. From the title of this video, you probably know that I'm going to be attempting to read the Secret Shanghai books by Chloe Gong in this video. It consists of two duologies, both set sequentially in Shanghai in the 1920s and the 1930s. And we also have a few short stories and novellas as well, and in this video I'm going to be reading all of them. Not because I'm particularly interested in the series itself. The reason I'm even attempting this in the first place is because I borrowed this book from my friend, Foul Lady Fortune, and this is technically the third book. It's the first book in a duology, and I guess you could read this without having read These Violent Delights first, but this book definitely spoils that series, and I'm a reader who abhors spoilers. Like, I absolutely detest them, and I will do anything it takes to get around getting any spoiler, and that includes reading a whole other duology just to get to this book that I borrowed. So I don't have the physical copies of any of the other books, just this one, and because of that I will be reading it digitally on my tab. Now, I'm a person who used to hate reading digitally. I thought it wasn't real reading and only flipping actual physical pages counted. But I realized that digital reading does have its benefits too, especially when you can't access some of the books you want to read physically because you either can't find them at a library or they're too expensive to buy. You can always switch to digital reading. And that's what I'm going to do here. These Violent Delights is a duology that got really popular when it came out, but I wasn't too interested in it back then because of its setting and time period. So it's set in 1920s Shanghai, so it's basically during the Mingguo time period, which I really don't like. Even watching it in C-dramas, I'm not a big fan of that. I don't really like that setting, but in order to read the book that I've borrowed, I will need to read at least these two. I'll see whether I want to continue on with the series after reading Foul Lady Fortune, but I'll definitely have to get to this and Our Violent Ends after this. So basically what this series is about, we follow our two protagonists, Juliette and Roma Montagov, and they're the heirs to rival gangs in Shanghai. And when a monstrous threat emerges that is putting the entire city in danger, they have to let go of their differences and work together to save the people. I've heard the setting is quite gritty, and I guess in a way it would be similar to reading Jade War by Fonda Lee. That is a trilogy I do want to check out. So I guess it would be like a young adult version of that. I don't know if they're very similar, but we'll see. Oh, I also forgot to mention, this is a Romeo and Juliet retelling, which is one of my least favorite Shakespeare plays, but it starts with a quote from that play. These violent delights have violent ends, and in their triumph die like fire and powder, which as they kiss consume. Day 2 of attempting to read the Secret Shanghai series. I was right about not really enjoying the book as much as I would another book. It's just the setting that is really getting to me. Initially, I wasn't having a good time at all, but as I keep reading, it keeps getting more interesting. The problem is I already got a spoiler for what the threat is, like the monster that's threatening the city. I already know what it is, so the mystery of it doesn't hold much appeal to me because I already know what's going to happen in that regard. But there are other subplots that happen, and like the political side of it, that's still pretty interesting to me. So I'm going to keep reading and find out what happens. So far, like, we meet both our protagonists in the first chapter itself, and we also see like the main character of the spin-off series, Rosalind Lang from Foul Lady Fortune. She also appears. She is the main character, Juliette Tsai's cousin. All the characters here are related to each other in some way or the other. I'm currently 14% through the book, which isn't a lot, but I haven't gotten the time to sit down and read for long durations of time. So for now, this is good. I don't know whether I'll actually be able to finish reading the whole series like within a short period of time, because if it takes me so long just to get through the first book, I still have to read another book, like the sequel to this, before I can even get to Foul Lady Fortune. And if it's going the way it is, I don't think I'll even read the sequel to Foul Lady Fortune. Maybe that duology will prove to be better than this. I'm not getting hooked by this story so far. The writing is really good. It's like beautiful, but the plot itself isn't as interesting to me. I would much rather be reading some other fantasy book right now. I realized I don't like urban fantasy. This is more like historical fantasy, but it's still set in a city and there's technology, and I don't really like that in my fantasy books. So basically in this city there are two gangs, the Scarlet Gang, which is like the Chinese faction, and then there's the White Flowers, and they are the Russian gang. At this point in history, Shanghai has been divided between different nations. They're all laying claim to parts of the city. We have like the French sector, the American sector, the British sector, like that, and the Scarlet Gang are trying to preserve the few remaining Chinese owned regions in the city, and the White Flowers, who are like Russian refugees who came to Shanghai when the Bolsheviks came to power in Russia. They basically constitute the White Flowers, and they're also competing with the Scarlet Gang to control these remaining pockets. And so there's a blood feud between the two families. At the beginning of the book, we learn that our main characters, Roma and Juliette, they hate each other, but they had a history with each other like 4 years ago, and then something happened then, and Juliette got sent to America, and now both of them just hate each other. I feel like Roma doesn't hate her as much as she does him. Something that I appreciate about the writing is that when there are words written in pinyin, it's like with the tones too. Usually in books they leave out the tones, they don't like write that, but I really appreciate that small detail put here. But something similar to that bothers me is that even when the Chinese characters, they're with their family, for some reason everyone calls each other by their Western name. Like, don't they have Chinese names? The names that were given to them at birth? That's just something that I find very strange and weird and could have been done better. Another thing that I can't believe has taken me so long to notice is the parallel to the original Romeo and Juliet play. So Roma Montagov, so his surname Montagov is like Montague, and Juliet Thai. Thai should be Capulet. The starting syllable isn't the same, but the letter is like C in Thai and Capulet. That I literally look like a drowned rat now. I just finished washing my hair. But yeah, I'm currently on the 30% mark. It's day 4 already. I didn't update yesterday because I didn't do any reading yesterday. It was quite a hectic day, so I didn't manage to read a story that is not keeping my interest that much. But I do admit it's starting to get more interesting because we're more into the meat of the story by now. And I was wrong about the fact that I had the story spoiled for me. The cause of the sudden deaths in the city, it's like what I know is just one of many revelations that follow. So they already find out this thing, what I know, at the 25% mark. So it's not that much of a spoiler, I think. What I think about the characters so far. So Juliette is, in theory, a character who should be a favorite of mine. But I don't know, the way she comes across in the book is just, she aggravates me. She definitely gets on my nerves. I like Roma a lot more, and I feel like if he had a choice in the matter, he wouldn't want to be so violent. That's like in direct contrast to Juliet, who literally thrives on violence. My favorite character so far would be Benedict, Roma's cousin. I like how serious he is about everything, how very calculating and decisive he is. I'm enjoying the friend group dynamics a lot. It's quite fun to see. We also learn what happened between the two of them, Roma and Juliet, 4 years ago. And yeah, it's a very valid reason for Juliet to hate him. The thing that I don't understand is why she hasn't killed him already, because like if something like that happened to me, I would have killed the perpetrator the first chance I got. So what is unrealistic about this is not the fact that she hates him, but the fact that she hasn't killed him yet. I'm fairly sure Roma had a reason for doing what he did, but Juliet doesn't know that. So if she did kill him, we can't really question her actions. I don't know why she's hesitating to do that. I mean, obviously, if she did it, then the book would end right then and there, no more story, but still. Another unexpected part is that we follow other characters' POVs, not just Juliette and Roma, which I think is quite interesting. It's day 5 and I'm currently 50% of the way through the book, and I'm properly invested in the story now. Till now it was more like I was ambling along, just like trying to keep my focus as I read, but now it has really picked up the pace. We're in the meat of the story and the stakes are piling up higher and we see a lot more action. I mean, this story is action-packed from the beginning. It's literally about rival gang wars, but still, now the action is actually contributing to the plot. So I'm not a big fan of gang stories because I just find it stupid. Because of stupid loyalties placed with these weird organizations, people are literally just killing each other out on the streets. It never made sense to me. So that's another reason why I wasn't really enjoying it. Even now, as I'm reading through the story, in my head I'm just going, oh my god, gangs are so stupid. But still, it's an enjoyable read. If you're looking for a quick action-packed story that has unraveling a mystery at the core of it, then you would enjoy this. It's just not for me so far. It's not bad enough that I want to DNF it. Then again, I'm a person who never DNFs books. But yeah, I can still continue on with it. I'm not hating it or anything. I'm like more on the, okay, I'm sort of enjoying it side, not entirely neutral. A part of the story that I really enjoy is the commentary on colonialism. Just reading those paragraphs makes my blood boil in righteous anger. But one thing I don't understand is the whole time we have these like entire tangents about how horrible these white men are because they're coming and taking the land from the Chinese people and then excluding them from the organizations they have there, despite it literally being their land. It's similar to how the British colonized India. But it's not like entirely colonized yet because the Chinese do hold power in a lot of the parts of the city. One thing I don't understand is this hatred. It's never targeted towards the Russians though, even though they're also foreign white men, so I just don't understand why they are exempt from it. There is a history of Russians fleeing from their homeland during the Bolshevik Revolution and coming to Shanghai of all places, but that doesn't qualify them as part of the land. But it's still weird that whenever Juliette rants about the colonizing that's happening, she isn't including the Russians with the other Western nations. So it's been a few more days since I last updated. I know I'm being very irregular with this thing, but I haven't gotten the time to read like enough to regularly update every day. I don't think a 5% increase in from the previous day would be much reading wise. So I just waited until I've read a sizable amount before I gave any major update. And now I have finally reached the halfway mark of the book, exactly 50% through. And I do have quite a lot of thoughts now. So I did say I wasn't enjoying these violent delights. However, Our Violent Ends is way better than the first one. I mean, the story is kind of similar in its premise, but I feel like it's executed much better over here. Probably because Chloe Gong has definitely grown as an author after writing one book and moving on to her second. I feel like the tension between Roma and Juliette is portrayed much better here. So what happens at the end, like, basically backtracks on all the work of the first book, their relationship-wise. But that's great, because over here we get some actually good tension. The stakes didn't feel that high, like, because Roma wasn't actually that antagonistic towards Juliette, but over here, oh god, he wants to murder her. Like, it's actually scary. So yeah, I feel like their roles got switched now. Like in the first book, Juliette was the one who was feeling very murdery, and now Roma's the one who wants to kill her. So that's quite interesting. Another thing I didn't expect is that I feel very sympathetic towards Tyler, who is like, I guess, a villain sort of. Juliette's cousin, who's supposed to be Tybalt from the Romeo and Juliet play. And I guess part of the reason why I feel that way is in our school production of the play, which actually never got staged because of various reasons, I was playing the character of Tybalt, and me and I guess Lord Capulet, we were the only two people actually doing our roles properly. And yeah, because of that, I feel some kind of deep connection to the character of Tybalt. I guess I have always liked characters who everyone else hates, like they're meant to be hated. I'm not talking about like the morally grey, dubious villain who gets redeemed. I'm talking about straight evil people who everyone hates. I really like those characters. And I guess Tyler is one such character who, you know, if I were a character in this book, I would probably be someone like him. It correlates to how I am in real life. So yeah, that's been an interesting time. And we do get to go to a new setting in this story, like just for a little while, maybe 5 chapters, and then we come back to Shanghai. But it was cool to get away from the city because I don't like Shanghai in this era. That, and yeah, the stakes overall are definitely much higher from the first book, which when you read it you wouldn't think it's possible, but yeah, that's what happens here. I have no idea how they're going to fix the mess they're in, and that's part of the excitement of reading books like this, knowing that you yourself will likely never be in a situation like that, so you can just sit back and watch our main characters solve all the problems. So yeah, that's about it for now. I guess I'll update you again by the 75% mark. Who knows, maybe my feelings towards certain things would have changed. As of now, definitely enjoying this book. Hello folks, I am back. And it has been a very long time since I last updated you. Though if I didn't mention it, you probably wouldn't know. Because I'm a very honest person, I'm telling you. Since my last update, I'm fairly sure it has been at least 2 months. Maybe more. In the meantime, I have put out a lot of different videos, and the reason why I haven't been able to give you any update is because I haven't been reading this book. And that's because I have been participating in the Aurelian Magical Readathon. And by this time, you probably have seen all the videos that have been uploaded. If you haven't, go watch them. Some of them are weird, but still, you know, you can know what I was reading in the meantime. But now I finished the final book that I was reading digitally. So at this time, I still have other books going on. Today is the 27th of September, so the Aurelian Readathon is still going on. But all of the other books I'm reading are physical books, which means when I'm commuting, I always like to have a digital book, and I read it during that time because I'm too scared to like take my physical books out in the bus and all, because what if it gets damaged, right? So I just read on my phone, and because I finished all the digital books I was reading for the readathon, I decided to resume reading Our Violent Ends. And I've got to say, things have gotten very strange. I'm currently at the 65% mark, and I take back everything I said about any of the characters, because now I absolutely hate all of them, especially Juliette. If I knew her in real life, I would probably put a bullet through her head because she is so horrible. And you know the worst part, it's fine if she was like a horrible person throughout. The thing is, she goes around saying, oh my god, I love the city of Shanghai so much. Oh my god, I have so much obligations to my people. I have to protect my people. I have to save them. And then she goes around and does absolutely horrible things. Like, you never see the fact that she loves the city or her people. She's so selfish and self-absorbed and self-centered. And then because of her stupid love for Roma Montagov, right, she does the most despicable things. She turns her back on her family, who have been nothing but incredible to her despite the things she does. And so a certain incident happened. This is why I've been going on a tirade about Juliette, and it's a spoiler, like it's the big spoiler. So if you don't want to hear that, then I suggest you skip ahead to this mark. I'll put it up here to that timestamp. Okay, I hope you've gone there already, so I'll just say the spoiler. Those who have stayed here to hear the spoiler, I hope you've read the book already. She kills Tyler, like, what the hell? So I know, you know, in the Romeo and Juliet play, how the duel between Romeo and Tybalt ends. We know what Tybalt's fate is, but Tyler was my favorite character. And this was just so ridiculous. She kills Tyler in the duel, so it's like illegal, right? He isn't expecting his cousin to put a bullet in his back when he's about to fight a duel with Roma. And in this case, it's like, you know, those Russian like gun duels. It's not like a saber or like a rapier duel like in the play. So that happens, and she is just so cruel. And then Roma's like, oh no, Juliette, you're not cruel. I'm sorry I made you do that to your cousin. I'm like, you all deserve to die. Like, I hate all these characters. All of them. They're just... Ugh. So you're telling me that... I don't even know how to put these in... Yeah, that just made me so worked up. I had to give an update just to tell you about how much I hate Juliette. She is irredeemable, and this is the 65% mark. And I wish this was the end so I could like stop reading it, but I still have like 35% of the book left, and I have to suffer through that. At this point, I don't even care about like the relationship between Juliette and Roma. Like, it's because of that Tyler's dead. I freaking hate Juliette. I wish she would drop dead and Roma can also drop dead. I hope the ending of this duology is like the actual play where they die, because they don't deserve to live. Not after Tyler gets killed. Because I don't know why the author is trying to portray Tyler as like this kind of evil person when, honestly, think about it. Was Tybalt evil in the play, or were Romeo and Juliet just horrid imbeciles? Like, that guy was just trying to do what's best for his family. He's trying to like uphold his family name and reputation and like trying to be a decent descendant of the family. And in this case, Tyler is literally like, Juliet says she cares for the city and she's doing stuff to save her people. Tyler cares for the Scarlet Gang more than her. And not only Tyler, she also kills like other gang members just because they happen to be there. And she didn't want to leave any witnesses. She just like killed them out for zero reason. Her own gang members. So there is no way she can be like redeemed after what she has done. So yeah, I hate Juliet. That's the general consensus for today's update. And she never is going, and I highly doubt she's gonna get better. I'm not at all invested in their relationship because of this, because you're telling me that after she murders her cousin, she can go have a resolution with Roma and like live with that guilt. And no, this whole book has been destroyed just because of that one scene. I don't know if anyone else agrees that maybe Tyler wasn't so bad. Like, he was my favorite character. I'm sure most people hate him because he's supposed to be a character who's hated. But I always felt bad for Tybalt, especially when I was playing that character in the play. Like, I really felt for him. I can't believe I had to die in the play because of these stupid people. So yeah, Juliet and Roma, they can go die. I don't care about them. I don't care about this book anymore, but I still have Foul Lady Fortune on my shelf. And so I'll finish this book so I can read that. Maybe Rosalind's story is more interesting and I will like her as a main character more. Maybe I'll finish that duology. Who knows? As of now, I just hate this book. So I'm gonna peace out now. See ya. So I finally completed these Violent Delights. No, Our Violent Ends. Yes, I finished Our Violent Ends and I got a new haircut while I was at it. I do prefer this look. It makes me seem more like me. Like, this is how I am in my head. And I'm glad that my mental image finally fits how I look in real life. Anyway, so I finished Our Violent Ends and it was as terrible as I expected it to be from that turning point of that particular scene. Juliet turned out into an absolute menace, and not in a good way. Like, she was supposed to be a total badass from the blurb, and she was just a mean, spoiled brat throughout the rest of the book. And Roma was just standing there completely supporting her nonsense, and that's not really what is meant by being supportive. He's not calling her out on any of her terrible actions, and their entire romance was stupid because it's a Romeo and Juliet retelling. So obviously, when the content material from which it is inspired is really stupid, you don't expect a retelling to be any good. Romeo and Juliet was meant to be a cautionary tale, right? It was supposed to be like, oh my god, look at these stupid teenagers, don't do this. So when you write a retelling where they're the protagonists and it just turns out into a mess, which is how this was. Its story was definitely not handled as well as it could have been. I don't think any of them redeemed themselves by the end. The ending, I mean, it took a different turn than I was expecting, because we know the ending of Romeo and Juliet, right? But then this is a YA novel and the main characters usually survive, and then we get the epilogue and then you're like, okay, so maybe what we thought isn't really what happened, but is it? So now it's confusing, setting the stage for Foul Lady Fortune. Well, not really. It's not really a cliffhanger because the duology is wrapped up, but then this question that we have could be explored in that. And one thing that I was not really looking forward to, but I was anticipating, is that I read the blurb for Foul Lady Fortune before I began this duology, and in that it said something about Rosalind, a particular scene that is supposed to have happened towards the end of Our Violent Ends. But then I was like looking forward to that throughout the entire book, but it never happens. So I'm like, so I guess it wasn't a spoiler. It's only mentioned in the beginning of Foul Lady Fortune. So I guess in a way, I wasn't really spoiled for any of this duology. And that's not really a good thing, because maybe if I was, I would have realized that, hey, this isn't worth my time. Now I know exactly what happened, so I can jump into Foul Lady Fortune without, without floundering in the world. I'm up to date with all the occurrences, and I could just read that, which I'm vastly more interested in. But then I had to sit through this extremely painful reading experience of these two books, and yeah, I definitely did not have a good time. Would I recommend this duology to anyone? Not really. I mean, the setting is pretty cool. 1920s Shanghai is different from your usual fantasy books. I personally don't like that time period, but I'm sure plenty of people would be interested in. So read it just for the historical background, I guess. I don't know how accurately it is done. I have watched a few Mingo period dramas, but I mean, it's different, watching something and reading about it. I'm very bad at visualizing the details, so that didn't really do much for me. It was a very average read. I hated the main characters, which definitely contributed to how I viewed the book as a whole. Read it if you don't have anything better to read and you, like me, don't want any spoilers before you start reading Foul Lady Fortune. Or if you just really want to read that duology, look up Spark Notes for these two books, I guess, and move on. I do want to read Foul Lady Fortune despite how terrible these two books were, because it follows Rosalind, and Rosalind turned out to be my favorite surviving character out of all of them. Her motivations are very complex and very understandable. I mean, if I had a cousin like Juliette, I would do stuff like that too. So I do want to read more from Rosalind's perspective, and hopefully she'll be less insufferable than Tsai Chun-Li, because I'm not even calling her Juliette anymore. Right. So that's all for this review of this duology. If this is someone's favorite duology, I do apologize for how I disliked it. But not really, they're my opinion. You're entitled to your own opinion. Anyway, I hope you got something out of this. I hope I didn't spoil too much of the story for those who haven't read it yet. And that's all for today. So if you want to hear more reviews from me, do let me know in the comments below what series or a standalone, I guess, I should do next. And I'll catch you all in my next video. See you later. 再见.